Elijah Hollands has had quite the start to his Cowland story, capturing the attention of fans and analysts alike, in a role that's often been seen as the missing jigsaw piece for Cowton's strong and robust midfield. Elijah has breathed life forward of centre of the ball and shown signs that exemplify the modern-day mid-forward type player. This story highlights Elijah's journey to becoming a fast fan favourite and where he could end up in his Cowton story. Born on the 25th of April 2002 in Adelaide, his father Ben had played 8 games for Richmond before playing over 100 games for West Adelaide. He was a dual Frost medalist himself, so Elijah had pedigree from his dad's side of the family. He was a latecomer to football though, and didn't start playing until after he was 9 years old, where he played for Wodonga Bulldogs, which incidentally was his dad's old football club. He started life as a young Auskicker, hoping to one day reach the heights of his father, but also more importantly, reach the heights of the great bright lights of Australian rules football, and made his senior debut for Wodonga at just 16 years old. This early period of his football career, he developed this uncanny ability to kick on both sides. Very strong in the air, and his ability to read the game. He had built the foundation blocks that would become pivotal in his journey in junior football and later into the seniors. That move at 16 playing Wodonga Bulldogs senior football also saw opportunities come for him at the elite level of junior football, playing 3 games for Murray Bush Rangers across half forward, showcasing 16.7 touches in them 3 games and an uncanny ability to kick big-time goals with 1.3 goals a game. The highlights that stood out particularly for Elijah for such a young player playing at this level was his ability to run hard for his team, work players in, but also his defensive half pressure. The following year as a bottom ager, he represented Vic Country at the biggest stage of them all for juniors and did stand out in them 4 games as a bottom ager, showcasing 5.5 tackles a game. This showed his hard edge, his willingness to play against bigger bodies, but also his muscle and his ability to win the ball back. He also showcased his ability to score and finish off passage of play with half a goal a game, but also his ability to be part of scoring chains and bring the better players and the more senior players in it. In the 2019 season at club level though, he did really showcase his football skills and was often touted as a potential pick 1 with the names of household players such as Jamara Ugle-Hagan and Riley Thilthorpe. The sky was the limit. It was the big season and everyone was talking about him. Could he be the next big thing in the football, particularly with all the talk around mid-forwards and Dusty Martin's 2017 year still ringing in the ears of recruiters? But it wasn't to be. Like many aspiring athletes and heroes of stories, Elijah faced challenges and cruelly did his ACL early in the season and was robbed of that final draft year where he could showcase the wares. The promising midfield forward had showcased so much though that questions had started to be asked. Was he a midfielder? Is he going to be able to be an AFL on-baller? Could he improve? And how would his mobility, which was often his strength, be affected by this ACL injury? The history was always there. ACL injuries are often repetitive at this stage and really do cut short the most important formative year of a junior footballer, his final draft year. But this wasn't to be. He finally got his chance and was taken pick 7 by the Gold Coast Suns. He may have wanted to go to Adelaide, a boyhood Adelaide fan, but this was testament to how hard he'd worked from 16 as an underager. He was now a big-bodied, roaming mid-forward in the big leagues, and they are often hard to come by. Gold Coast appeared with their young list and their building the perfect place to be, and everyone was excited to see where this would take him. At Gold Coast, he started with a goal on debut in the VFL and slowly started to build his fitness levels, playing 4 games after his ACL recovery in 2021, and with another pre-season and strong VFL form in the midfield this time and forward, he showcased his ability to bring senior players and state league players into the game and be an important conduit between midfield and forward. And he finally got his chance to showcase his AFL ability in round 19 at the Q Class versus versus Brisbane, where Elijah kicked a goal and showcased his defensive pressure. Real strong off the ball, and he backed that up with a goal late in the game, and the sky really was the limit. It wasn't long until the Rising Star nomination came and the future looked bright. He played 5 senior games, averaging 17 touches, 2 tackles and a goal a game. It really looked like the next stage was coming for him. The preseason in 2023 was pretty good for Elijah. Isaac Rankine, who often played half forward and was touted as potentially a pinch hitter in the midfield, moved to Adelaide. And many expected Elijah to rise up. With a midfield containing Rowell, Anderson and Tuck Miller, it probably did need a point of difference and someone that could unlock that forward line with some promising youngsters. But it wasn't to be. They seemed to constantly overlook him, and he was restricted to the 9 games, with them being subs as well. And even though he started the first 4 rounds, it wasn't until Stewie Dew was removed that he returned to the fold. And a strong, if not spectacular, VFL year showed that at 21, it seemed maybe he was now on the outer at Gold Coast, because they had a plethora of talent in this role. His name was everywhere in the rumour mill, and it looked like a change of scenery was needed for young Elijah if he was going to not become a draft bust. Carlton came calling, and a chance to pair up with his younger brother seemed too good to be true. There was a misdemeanour off-field at Gold Coast, which only further added to the questions of a once promising young footballer's career. With the talk coming from his agency that he wanted to play midfield, despite being played almost exclusively forward in State League for Gold Coast, it made Elijah even more mysterious. But finally, Carlton bit the bullet, sending a future first and pick 25 for Elijah, with pick 28 and future 4th coming Carlton's way. He was reunited with Ollie, and vibes were pretty high about Elijah. Was this the time that he could make good of his once promising potential? It seemed he was finally at Princes Park, where he could showcase his skills in the bright lights of Melbourne, the home of football. And with the result of his court case being that Carlton had retracted his deal and an early season suspension, it seemed it's now or never for Elijah. The hard work had to start again, and he was starting from the ground up at a new football club. But like all true heroes and stars of the game, this was where the true work began and the star started to shine again. After serving his suspension, he was hastily brought into Carlton's round 3 side with their clash at the Kangaroos, where he was close to best on in a dominant performance for a kid that hasn't played a lot of football. 22 touches, 5 tackles, and his first Blues goal that saw him mobbed by his players. He really drew himself into the Blue Baggers' hearts, showcasing his fantastic ability at link-up play, his selfless running, and his hard-at-it attitude. His ability to kick on both sides really showcased a point of difference in a sometimes bomby type midfield. He showed that Carlton aren't just flat-footed, and they can be a very dynamic side. It wasn't long with his early season form that Carlton looked to secure the long-term future of Elijah Hollands, and he signed a 2-year with the Blues after a very strong and promising start. This dashing X-Factor mid-forward was now turning heads and also becoming key points of difference in games, becoming not just a role player that many people thought, but showcasing that he has the potential to be a future star of this competition. He currently stands at the moment as one of the recruits of the year, and in a league where points of difference are so king, we have seen Carlton coaches trusting more and more as a point of difference inside the midfield, where he has been getting some CBAs, but also been a key component around stoppages. He finally now had a steady role. Love from fans and players alike, it was time for him to start flourishing. I remember covering his draft year, and at the time Dustin Martin was probably linked to anyone who evidently pinched hit in the midfield and could kick a goal. He still remains one of the top 10 draftees I've seen in that underage year, and he's now at a place where he can really showcase his wares. His ability to play wide off the ball, sit back, find pockets of space, but penetrate deep in and around stoppage with the ball in his hands, find that handball, but also the coolness to slow the game down and hit a switch just before 50 to change the angle, reminds me a lot at times of a young Mark Murphy. It's very important that Dustin Martin is often made to be the poster boy of footballers like this, and that's probably because of his 2017 year, where arguably that was one of the greatest years we've seen a footballer play in mid-forward. And if we look at Dustin Martin at the same age in his career, we can see that the similarities don't stop there. Both of them have high disposal numbers, 17.3 for Elijah. Dusty edges him out here, but the marks, the goals, the tackles, the inside 50s, the goal assists, the score involvements, all are around the same area. This is really the beginning, in my opinion, of a very promising career. As the season progresses, another pre-season in his legs, I foreshadow an All-Australian Guernsey rule bestowed on the Elijah Hollands name. And he is a key missing jigsaw piece, in my opinion, in Carlton's yo-yo system around stoppages. And the answer that they've always searched for appears to be in an Elijah Holland-shaped jigsaw puzzle. He's clever, he's strong, he's talented, and incredibly skillful. He could be the icing on the cake of a beautiful, hard-edged sponge that includes Walsh and Hewitt and Cripps, who have cemented themselves in the engine room of Carlton's midfield. There's a long way to go and many more chapters to write for young Elijah, but at this stage of his career, the future seems incredibly bright. And at the end of the book, we could be witnessing another famous name in an already famous club that is often on the lips of many nuffies at the end of his career. This is a great story. This is Elijah's story.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella